Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea. I got my handy dandy Seahawks cup for tonight's game against the Minnesota Vikings. And sit back, relax, and let's chat about what's going on in the stars above, in the planets above, and through some human design and through some gene keys. It seems like it's been forever since I was on air. Of course, it was really just Wednesday. Thursday was Thanksgiving in the US, Friday, a holiday for us after the Thanksgiving holiday, and then Saturday and Sunday. But it feels like I have lived a freaking lifetime in that few days since I was here last. So good morning as everybody's checking in with us. We had a very quiet Thanksgiving, and as we celebrate as a family much earlier so that so all my kids and their in-laws can spend time together. And it just works out better all the way around because I have two of my family members who are in retail, which means that they're already having to get ready for Black Friday and all of that. So it just seems easier to do it the week before. And then on Friday, I had issues going on with my internet. Suddenly it decided to quit on me and took me 4 people and until Saturday morning to be able to get it fixed, which is ridiculous. I found out my daughter had been attacked on Friday at the Apple Cup game, and nobody told me about it until late on Saturday. And I was upset about that, upset because she was attacked, but she's fine. So no worries. She's actually fine. I think she'll probably be dealing with the fallout of an attack for a while, and it could have been so much worse. Luckily, I have strong kids, and she stood up for herself and minimized what had happened. So it feels surreal to me to be sitting here this morning like nothing else has happened. Jupiter turning into a new sign that happened very early this morning, or I think it happens at 10:20 this morning. So we're already in a new sign with Jupiter. It feels like it's a new day, but not necessarily a new, happy, joyful, filled with light day for me. I don't know if that translates over to you guys as well. It just feels more serious. Maybe that's what it is. Life feels like it took a turn for the serious. And I know that changes too, because of course this is emotional energy, and emotional energy just sort of rolls and goes with the flow and, goes up and down. Yet, the potential, the high side, the potential for what comes out of these next few several months and through Jupiter's transit now in Capricorn could be very life-changing for most of us. Depending on where that is in your chart will kind of drive where life changes are occurring for you. But whenever a major planet changes signs, it is a huge deal. And energetically, we feel it. You can feel the range from being sucker punched and, like something, drastic is happening, or, feel that very melancholic feel, to the absolute opposite, which would be, sheer bliss and excitement, because these planets, Jupiter on out, don't change signs very often, right? Jupiter changes signs only once every 12 years or every year, and Saturn once every 2.5 to 3 years. So we don't feel like those changes happen enough. So when they do happen, it's big. Unlike, Mercury and Mars and Venus and the moon changing signs every few days and, every few weeks for the others. So a planet like Jupiter changing signs really calls up an energetic shift within us, and all of us are going to react a little bit differently. Now, this particular shift is into the sign ruled by Saturn, Capricorn. So now we have Jupiter, who has been in a sign that he ruled, and he is now in a sign that Saturn rules. So there's this clipping of the wings feeling, landing maybe gently onto the planet, feet on the ground, ready to do something. So we talked a lot about that on Wednesday before, because I knew by the time we met up this morning, the deed would already have been done, that Jupiter would already be into Capricorn. So what can we expect? Here's some other thoughts I had as I was thinking about this over the weekend. What else might we expect now with Jupiter into Capricorn? Well, wherever it is in your own personal chart, and that means you're going to have to look up a chart and see where it is by house, because the house tells us where the action will be taking place in your life. So if it's the first house, it's about you. The second house, it's about your resources and how you earn income. Third house, about how you communicate, how you learn, what the state of your mind and communication, etc., all the way through the chart. So wherever this planetary change where Jupiter is moved into is going to be the house where this is going to get affected. Now, likely it isn't that at the same time Jupiter moved into a new sign, it moved into a new house in your chart. Likely there's some shifting going on between signs and between houses. So if you look at your own chart and you find the sign of Capricorn, and which looks like a number 76, the symbol looks like a number 76. You might be able to tell by the house number where it is that some things are going to be impacting you. And it can, change into different houses later on in the transit as well. So really an astrologer could help you find where that is. But, you can also help yourself by seeing, sorry, my computer is off kilter here. You can also help yourself a bit by, looking at your own personal chart. In my house, in my house, in my life, it is going to be moving through my sixth house, the house of work, service, and health. So I already knew that was coming. So I'd already started to really think about what would be healthy changes for me, both in my work life and in my own body. And if it's going on for you in your relationship house, and maybe you're thinking about relationships, often I find that people already know intuitively where the planetary change is happening because they're seeing something going on in their own personal lives around that area. So what can we expect? Well, for one thing, in the sign of Capricorn, Jupiter's looking, instead of for pie in the sky optimism and big pictures, it's looking at concrete results. What can we expect, right? What are it's the action and reaction. If I take this action, then this is the thing that will happen next. So we're looking at concrete results, that, feet on the ground thing. We have to remember during this next year, and this is the one thing I have to keep putting in my own head, we have to remember that it takes both imagination and action, realism, to make something really happen in your life, right? You could keep steamrolling your way, forcing, we talked about that last week when the sun and earth were at the gate, the manifesting generator gates, and it made us feel like we were trying to force something to happen. So rather than forcing, we have to sort of allow. It doesn't mean that allowing isn't a concrete, sequential kind of action. It's not that at all. It is that we have to be able to imagine or create in a mind and then create in the real. So both hugely important. Now, don't give up on your imagination just because everything takes on a more serious or need to take to be real, right? Realism does not exclude imagination, just as imagination does not exclude realism. Streamlining. I was thinking about that this weekend. I don't know that I would have attached that word to it until much later, as having my internet interrupted and having to test equipment, etc., for the people I was talking to, created an opportunity for me to, redesign the area that my internet equipment sits, how my desk sits. I realized that my, what do you call those things? The power strip where all my gadgets are plugged into was defunct. It wasn't power surging or protecting from power surges anymore. And so I had to go purchase a new one. So that allowed me to get the newest, type of surge protector. So now my equipment should be protected. And also, the newer ones have extra little slots for your USB, to be able to charge my phone as I'm sitting here, etc. So fun stuff, right? When you just get to streamline, you get to be able to kind of organize and use that practical energy for a good use. So discipline is also something that we must commit to in this next year. That's going to be a huge theme because Saturn, Pluto, South Node, Jupiter, and as we move on, the Sun, the Moon, and Mercury, Venus right now, and Ceres, not Ceres, Ceres is going to be, they're going to be all be transiting through Capricorn. So this idea of discipline and what are we committed to? Commitment is a huge word that we can think about for 2020 and also for December here. Commitment. Are you committed to the right things, the correct things for you? Right? Just because the world might tell you you need to be committed to, working 30 years in a job that you hate, doesn't mean that's the true commitment for you. Or saying yes to everything just because someone else tells you that that's the best thing to be doesn't serve you, right? If we are here to commit to the things that are the best for us personally. So commitment, are you committed to the right thing? And once committed, what does that mean, right? Are you all in or are you only half in? Are you dangling a toe in the water? So we'll have to commit to things in our world. Then step by step, right? That's another, I think we talked about that last week, the step-by-step progression. That's what Saturn prefers. That's what Jupiter's going to have to learn while he's in the sign that Saturn rules, is that there is a stepwise progression to everything. You put one foot in front of the other, and that's how you get progress. And that sometimes that is a process of 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but you're still 1 step forward. So being optimistic, even in the sign of the ups and the downs and the forward and the backward motion that this year may bring, being authentic. If there's anything that Saturn really prefers, Saturn in Capricorn, the 10th house really prefers, it is people who are living their authenticity, who are living in their own authority. So those 2 words, interchangeable this year, authenticity and authority. And are you claiming that? And are you living in that, right? Are you being authentic? Are you being responsible? Responsibility, keyword for Saturn, keyword for now Jupiter moving into Saturn's realm. Responsible. Taking and being able to respond and not react, right? Responsible. And we still get to play with the word. I think there's some overlap this year from last year's themes of resourcefulness and conservatism that overlap into this year as well. Resourceful, F-U-L-L, not F-U-L, F-U-L-L. What does that mean? Filled with resources. And using those resources and applying them in a correct way, correct for you, in a way that supports the planet, your community, your tribe, your family, being resourceful, looking at the world through a cup full and not a full cup empty, or what was a full cup emptied. So we have some really, what sound like serious words, and they are, there is an air of seriousness about this, but it's a seriousness about getting things done in a way that is supportive for you and the world. I'm going to stop for a second here and take a quick look at what people are saying out there this morning. I missed somebody. It looks like Marjorie Roth. Good morning to you. And somebody else, Marissa, maybe. It won't let me go backwards. Yeah, I think it was you, Marissa. And good morning, Colleen and Christine Erickson. Colleen says, good morning from ice and snowy New Jersey. Yeah, it was that we went from the icy feel to today back to clouds. It's 40. Or it's the high today is going to be 40, so it's not so cold. Camille, tell us something good. Mimi, good morning to you. Debbie Tibbetts, Tumiel, good morning. Kathy Miller, good morning. Rebecca, good morning. Well, afternoon for you. And Marjorie says, good morning from Virginia, cold yet sunny. And everybody else checking in. Colleen, thank you. And Marissa, thank you. Yes, Marjorie, thank you. Camille, Capricorn. No, my daughter's a Sagittarius. She's a Sag. Her birthday is coming up here in just before Sagittarius ends. But she has an Aries rising, so everything lines up in her chart exactly as it is in the natural zodiac wheel. So she'll have Scorpio, where Mars is on the house of death and rebirth. I could have warned her about danger with Neptune changing direction. I didn't even think about it. And I'm not going to beat myself up about it because everything turned out okay. She is fine. And with the exception of trauma, the trauma that you have to deal with after something like that. I mean, she not only was attacked, but in the attack fell over down a ravine and into a bog. She called it the bog of eternal stench. And, she was up to her waist in, icky water. And, it was very cold that day. So she was layered in lots of different layers of clothing. And she had like 3 pair of socks on under her with her shoes. And, it was just a horrible experience. And then to be screaming and yelling for help and not a person helped her. And then she finally gets out and gets up onto the road once more. And now she's, muddy and crying and hysterical, and not a soul helped her until she got back to the car where, her group of people were, and then people sprung into action. And not a pretty thing, but my daughter's a strong being, and I don't know what kind of wake-up call this might have been for her, but she'll work through it and she'll be fine. And luckily, like I said, nothing else happened. She avoided the worst that could have happened in that situation. So anyway, Karen, good morning. Londa, good morning. Suzanne Fulmer, oh my gosh, Suzanne, it's great to see you out there. Asa, good morning. Camille says, create fresh energy in your workspace through those changes. I did. And you know what? It felt good, although I didn't get to finish it because of all of the other stuff that happened. But I put a pile of things on the floor this morning just before I went on air. And I thought, okay, I have a chance later to go through some of that because I know there's little jewels in that pile. So I need to do that. Allison, good morning to you. Jupiter, Mimi, Jupiter will span the 9th, then 10th houses for me. Learning, then career. I can do this. It's not even just learning. I just saw a thing, a ghost, or something go through my field. Weird. So it will be not just about learning for you, Mimi, but about expansion and application of those things that you've expanded into. And learning is a part of that. Of course, we learn a new skill and then we apply that skill. Broadening your horizons, right? That's kind of initially. Then Jupiter moving into Capricorn is in its own house, in its own domicile. So you have, that broadening of your horizons that then has to become focused and applied in the 10th house of career, profession, authority, and in how you express yourself in the world. So that's pretty cool. Thank you for knowing that, Mimi. You'll be able to follow along here. Kristen, good morning. Debbie, oh my God, I didn't know this. Bless her. That's because Debbie, at the time I was talking to you, I didn't even know this. I didn't even know this had happened until the next day even. And yes, Mimi, thank you. And a little fairy just kind of went up here. Okay, so if you guys have any questions about Jupiter in Capricorn, please feel free to go ahead and type that question in there. Maybe you know what house it is in your chart and you want to have a quick soundbite about what it means for you. You can also go back to follow the link to the radio show that I did with Annette McCoy in Australia on Wednesday. Because I did some further work through looking at Earth element energy. And I'm not sure I did that with you all last week because there was so much other stuff I wanted to talk about. But I went through, because so much is happening in Earth sign energy, which demands that practical, boots on the ground, realistic application of the things we've learned. And so I went through, a lot of information on that, and you can still follow the link that I put up on that show, and it'll take you to the recording. And then you can download the recording to your laptop or your, phone so that you can hear it as a podcast later. And I thought that show went really well. Luckily, my internet and everything was fine then. It was just afterwards that the problem started up. But even that got fixed. So you know what, life goes on, and we just deal, right? We just deal with everything. Let's talk about the week's upcoming transit. It's not a very powerful week as far as transits go. It's a little bit quieter. But I think the whole idea of Jupiter moving into Capricorn is the biggest signal for the week. And it's likely going to affect us all throughout the week as we get used to the feel of this new energy, of the new expression of Jupiter energies in the world that builds up over time. But we also have Venus in a sextile to Mars, Venus in Capricorn, Mars in Scorpio. And so we're still exchanging some, deep energies in our relationships and looking within in a deeper way. We have the sun squaring Neptune. Some things are going to get a little cloudy. It might be hard to make big decisions as we move through the week. Venus also in a sextile to Neptune through the week. So at times you may find, I feel it today too, sort of like this glazed feeling, like things aren't quite clear or quite settled. And in that space, it's hard to make big decisions. So if you are feeling like you're in that kind of space, try not to make big decisions. Do what you can to gather information to, get on the right track, but maybe hold off until later in the week or even early next week before you make those key decisions. If we look at human design this week, we have Venus at the 4th. Oh gosh, I got to turn my calendar. So the 4th will be, today's the 2nd, so Wednesday, Venus will move into the gate 38, which is a gate of fight and struggle. In human design, it's on the root center, so the very bottom center in your human design. Oh, I actually printed up today's chart. Here we go. So it will be down here at the gate 38, which is open right now because Venus isn't there yet. And it will be moving over here toward the spleen. So the gate 38 is really about the fight or struggle. But is it appropriate to fight for everything? What's the correct thing to fight for? What's worth struggling for? What is worth persevering for? It goes then back to our values and what is it that is worth sticking in there for, right? If you've been struggling with something in your own business and you just know that this is the right thing, the right business, and you just need to persevere or endure long enough to let things, happen in their own timing, that's worth fighting for, right? That's worth struggling with. And it could be, healing process that you're going through in your own body, in your family, in your relationships, that takes time. It takes time and it takes our willingness to be unattached to an outcome. And at the gate 38, Venus will be reminding us about that if we have specific values that are worth fighting for and enduring with and persevering through, then it will be all worth it. And everything else just can fall away. It's not worth struggling. It's like pick your battles or choose, what is that saying? Choose your battles wisely, right? Choose your battles wisely because not everything is worth fighting for. On the 5th, Mercury will move into the gate 14, which is the gate that we call bounty, bounteousness in its highest expression. And in its lowest expression, it's where we compromise, where we give away parts of ourselves. Not compromise in the good kind of statement, but this is where we let go of our dreams or we let go of parts of us that, that for some reason we didn't feel worthy of receiving, perhaps. So there's a lot of different things that we can compromise with that are in the positive, but this particular instance is one where we're compromising, giving ourselves away, right? Letting go of this idea of bounty or abundance. And then on the 8th, which is not until Sunday, Venus will be moving into the gate 54. Now Venus is closing in on Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn. The gate 54 in its highest expression is ascension. In its gift, it's aspiration. In its lowest expression, it's greed. So this could be an interesting week energetically when we might see some contrasting themes. I was kind of trying to take a quick look at the news highlights this morning before I got on air, but it's just way too much, right? Just way too much stuff going on out there. But that's kind of the nature of the time right now, this up and down, up and down. And he said, she said, and, if you believe that direction, then what happens over here in this direction? And just that craziness is also a part of our ascension process, and we have to just go with that, right? But staying close into your own channel, in your own lane, and understanding that you have power as an individual to make the big changes in the world, even though the world would have you think that you don't have any power. Pleiadian-Earth energy. So huge things happening in December in the Pleiadian-Earth energy, and I'm not quite sure I can't dig into this today. I read deeper into it, but I need to go back to my Mayan astrology days, because I think in a way that there's a model in the Mayan calendar for something called burner days, something that we call the shadow cycle. And if you've got a Pleiadian-Earth energy calendar, then likely, I've got mine right here in front of me, my handy dandy Earth, Pleiadian-Earth energy, you're probably having noticed that the bottom part of December here is highlighted in gray from the 26th on through the 31st. And that's because that gray tells us we're going into a collective shadow cycle. And so I spent some time looking at that, because we kind of want to be prepared when we're going into a shadow cycle, because why? All of our shadows are going to come up, but it's the collective shadows, not just your, you also have your own personal shadow cycle that moves through both the Mayan and the Pleiadian energy in the calendars in their astrology. And this isn't one that's about you personally. This is about us collectively moving through a shadow time period. And that particular shadow begins on the 26th with 4 being. Whenever the calendar gets to 4 being, by the way, it's a very powerful time. And it signals that collective shadow beginning. And I'm still working on putting that together. We'll talk more about that as the month wears on. But for today, in our Pleiadian-Earth energy, we are at 6 evolving, which is Caban in the Maya calendar. Caban was the representation of Earth, or the earthquake. It is where boundaries are shaken up, right? It's where we are kind of broken down in order to be rebuilt in a more powerful, in a more strong manner, in a more stable, and there's a foundation. Stability and strength are implied here, but it also blurs the lines. It's hard to see who's right, who's wrong, what's up, what's down, because they're all sort of melding together. So we have this evolving energy. It's like, so I feed hummingbirds, right? I love to feed my hummingbirds, and I take and make their food with organic sugar and water, and I pour the sugar into the mixing bowl, and then I pour hot water into it. And for that time, it's like oil and vinegar at first, right? They don't mix, but then you apply the stirring, right? The evolving energy, and you evolve those products to be something from separation, they become one. That's a great metaphor for what's happening for us as in this kind of day, where out of separation, we're learning to become one as we stir the pot and we mix everything up and we come together and blend in a new potential, in a new way, right? So we go from sugar and water to sugar water, right? To hummingbird food. We go from oil and vinegar or oil and water to an emulsion that can create a salad dressing, let's say, or something. So we have a lot of different metaphors that we could use to describe what's happening for us, but that's what is happening for us. We're in out of this separation, these two different entities, let's say, they're coming together and stirred up and recreated. And of course, that plays into the universal energy of the day, because the universal energy of today is 6. It is about flow and abundance and recognizing that everything, it's that Ouroboros, right? Everything leads to the other, and round and around. And so flow, so it's about giving and receiving and just going with the flow, being in abundance, being in bounty. So we have some really good energy through the Pleiadian calendar, showing us that our next step evolving is that if you're feeling separated or torn apart in some way, that's all a prelude to coming back together in a new iteration of you or the situation. It's kind of a good thing. All right, I'm going to go back here and see any questions. Colleen says, Jupiter will be transiting my 5th house, woohoo, the joy, romance, love house, creativity, and natal 12th Capricorn is my 5th or 6th house. Oh, I get it. Jupiter natally is in your 12th house, I bet, is what you mean. I love seeing Jupiter in the 12th house in people's charts, because I often, as soon as I see that, I think, there's something hidden in there, that your true self, your real authentic self, the real powerful self is hidden, right? It's hidden from you. Whether you've hidden, likely you've done the hiding, and it's just waiting to bust out and ready to just, come out and be its magnificence, to be its generous self, to be its master, a guru, a leader. I mean, it's amazing to me when I see the 12th house Jupiter, at what depth there is that's hidden from that person about who they are and about what they're here to do, about how they're here to express that Jupiter. It's like they're wearing an invisibility cloak, and at times they get a glimpse of their own magnificence and how they could be, but they don't fully embrace that. So here's your chance. Embrace your magnificence, your creative magnificence, Colleen, in a huge way as you go moving through this particular year. Christine says, hope your daughter is fine. She is. Capricorn in the 8th house, meaning 8th house Capricorn. So this is about a couple of different things, Christine. An 8th house Capricorn could be about uncovering the taboos in your life, looking at the depths in a very studied way and deliberately. So in the 8th house, sometimes we see all of the taboos in society, right? Sex, taboos around death, taboos around the dying process, the rebirthing process, the occult, metaphysics, everything, the divine feminine is very powerful in this particular 8th house. And now you have the possibility of putting words to, putting action to what lies hidden in your 8th house. The 8th house, sometimes when I see like a lot of planets in the 8th house in somebody's astrology chart, I sometimes think about what that person may have experienced in terms of abuses, sexual abuse, perhaps emotional abuse, physical abuse, or depending on, what planets might be there, are they somehow different from their family of origin and they feel like an outsider, marginalized? And then are they likely going to do something very different in the world than what the mainstream is all about? So in there's the embracing maybe some of the differences that the 8th house brings to you, not being afraid to dig in and be you. Yeah. 8th house Capricorn. So you may have to very deliberately and in a very streamlined way generate a transformation for yourself, Christine. If that's, if you're asking about you. Good morning, Catherine Worcester. Mimi says, yep, to the ups and downs, even the news junkie I am, I find myself backing away for a bit. Music and movies as a soothing balance. Yes, exactly. And Christine Erickson says, and Jupiter in Cancer. Well, that's about your personal path to nurturing and being a mother, being mothered, being a healer, perhaps, expressing emotion, learning how to appropriately express emotion. And Colleen says, thank you. You're most welcome. Colleen says, my natal Jupiter is in Cancer too. There you go. Nurturing yourself. Kathy, love you girls. Glad she wasn't harmed more. She was absolutely bumped and bruised and scared as all heck, traumatized by the potential of what could have been, but she's fine. Anyway. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I am going to do something now that I love doing this. I love going to this deck, the Wisdom Keepers Oracle deck and the Wisdom Keepers Inner Guidebook, because since we've been talking about Jupiter, I don't know, for the last couple of times that we've talked about Jupiter, I wanted to get this card out and I wanted to read this story to you. And somehow it just never happened. But this morning we seem to have some time extra. So I want to talk to you about the gate 10, where Jupiter is sitting, the gate of self-love. And remember, in its highest form, it's the gift of, or it's the gift of naturalness. It is the shadow of self-obsession, and it is the siddhi of being. And since we have the collective shadow period coming up in the universal energy or earth energy of being, this is a perfect match. Boom, boom. This goes together really well. So Jupiter will be sitting here at the gate 10 for quite a while, through the whole of this month, I do believe, and then even into January of 2020. And here's the wisdom story that goes along with this card. It says, once you understand that you are neither your name or your actions, feelings, thoughts, or beliefs, you realize that human nature is something far greater and wider than you ever expected. Here's the wisdom story. My parents and my culture always prioritized the collective over the individual. As a young girl, I mastered the arts of self-denial and invisibility. I lived through and for the people around me. Over time, I started to feel like I was drowning, like I couldn't breathe, until an anger rumbled so loudly within me I could no longer deny it. Suddenly, my survival no longer depended upon my disappearing. It depended on my ability to reject my family and conditioning at all costs. I could no longer risk losing myself, so I became obsessed with myself. I wanted to know myself, be myself, dress like myself, act like myself, even pray and commune with spirit like myself. I looked to the West to show me how to be a true individual. I became so good at being me that no one could penetrate my fortress of selfhood or my heart. I couldn't afford to be sensitive or to care how my way of being impacted others. I believed most people wanted to change or trap me. The rest of them, in my opinion, needed changing themselves. It wasn't until all of my relationships fell apart that I realized just how narcissistic I'd become. It took courage to see and own just how angry, paranoid, and impenetrable I was, and how in my fear of losing myself, I'd been pushing people away. Today, I feel great compassion for myself and all beings who suffer as we struggle to find our way in life, to live out our true nature. It took me years to feel safe enough to let go of all of the identity trappings I gathered along the way and to fully grasp that my true nature is beyond all definition. Now I know that we can only experience and operate as a unity if we allow ourselves to be our unique, natural selves. My gift to you. I see you striving to discover who you are, and I know how difficult it can be to answer this deeply human question. While you're searching for yourself, do not forget to enjoy the journey. There will be a time when you can just let it all go. In the end, you are not what you do or what you know. You are not your thoughts, feelings, or beliefs, nor are you your looks or job description. Over time, as this truth sinks in and as you stop arguing with your life, you will find yourself becoming more grounded, centered, and full of joy. More relaxed, free, and at ease. Whatever is in your heart, whatever you're meant to do or express will simply arise out of you with naturalness. I am here to remind you that you are far more splendid than your mind could ever grasp, and your authentic nature is destined to bloom and contribute to the magnificent garden of which we are all a part. Graciously take a bow, get out of your own way, and let it happen. And then the questions for contemplation. Where are you compromising or losing yourself in others? You know, we've heard that again too, through, what was it? Mercury this week being at gate 14, where the lowest expression is compromise. So where are you compromising or losing yourself in others? Where are you self-obsessed or clinging too tightly to an identity, a way of thinking, being, or doing? Where might you still be playing the martyr? Where do you need to stop compromising? Think of a time you experienced true naturalness when you fully relaxed in your own skin. What about that situation brought out the naturalness in you? Good question. In what ways can you expand your sense of self and of being? Write your reflections in your journal. I love that message. I love, love, love that. All right. Let's draw some cards for us for the week. And I'm going to draw one of each, a Spirit of the Oracle and the Spirit Animal deck. And let's do that. And then I will be on my way. Any questions about anything since Marjorie, Capricorn, 3rd house, and Jupiter, 10th in Leo? Okay. Christine, thank you. Also have Jupiter in the 9th house. Expansion, expansion, expansion. And Marjorie, Capricorn, 3rd house, getting your thoughts and your mind, the contents of your mind in order. Are you someone whose thoughts wander? Do you lose focus easily? By the way, this week in human design, at least for the next few days, we have a lot of focus and concentration energy that we can tap into. And your Jupiter in the 10th house in Leo, wow, you are here to do and be the center of attention, the drama queen, the artist, living from your heart as a part of who you are out in the world. We have 2 cards for the week. The first one is called the Tribe, card number 8. We haven't seen this card in a while. Isn't that cute? The Tribe, and it was right side up. And the other one, this is a good one too, but it's upside down in protection, called Between the Worlds. That's what I feel like, Between the Worlds. And there we go. We see the flamingo partly in color, partly in black and white or gray, and card number 3. So that was our second card, and card 8 was our first one. So funny story, guys. I wrote about this one of the days of the weekend. Maybe it was on Friday morning. In the midst of all of this stuff that I was doing, why did I do this? For some reason, I did I was talking to my son about, Google and I don't know, whatever we were talking about. It led me to go to Google Trends, which is a place where you can look for keywords and, see what people are searching for, right? So I thought, just for the heck of it, I'm going to do a search on the Meta Cafe, which you'll notice this morning I deliberately did not mention at all. Because when I did that, I discovered that it is a source of videos of all kinds, not necessarily of the positive sorts. There's funny ones, there's raunchy ones, there's, pretty much edgy sort of videos. And I thought, oh my goodness. So people, if you've been searching for the Meta Cafe and you're coming up with some weird site, I apologize. I had no idea. I never searched that term until the other day. So I've now rebranded the morning show. It is no longer the Meta Cafe. I do not want to promote somebody else's weird video site. So we are now Living Astrology with Janet Hickox, and that is just the way it's going to be until, I thought of doing the Astro Cafe and everything just seemed cliche. So I'm just going to call it like it is. We're Living Astrology and you're doing it with me. So there we have it. And I changed the hummingbird this morning, so you might even notice my hummingbird cafe logo is different because I just did not, I was changing my ID, my identification, but it was pretty funny. All right, so the Tribe is our first card for the week, and it says this: the essential meanings are community, belonging, being seen and understood by others, like-minded connections, a sense of family and friendship, and knowing your place in the world. The Oracle's message for the week says, this card signals a new affiliation with a group. Humans are social creatures, and we need to know we are useful to our tribes, families, and communities. In a tribe, everyone has an important function and feels, I matter. Membership in the group provides a sense of belonging, of kinship, and of purpose that comes from working together for the greater fulfillment of all. Perhaps you are part of a spiritual community or an artistic one. Perhaps you are in a learning community where you share your love of education. Regardless of its form or focus, your community brings you joy. You will be inspired by it and want to contribute to it. Your contribution may be as small as showing up or as large as becoming a leader. No matter your position in the tribe, your presence is needed, right? We need your presence in the world. We need your full presence. We need your true presence. We need your authenticity in the world. Okay, I could get up on my soapbox on that one. Okay, card number 3, Between the Worlds, and it was in protection, but the meaning of that card is transitions, not being quite out of one situation and fully engaged in another, temporary blindness, and a no man's land. But it was in protection. So that says, in your work, sometimes that's not it. Wrong card there. Wrong place. Protection message says, be mindful of your expectations. This is not a time for guarantees. Things will not go exactly as you plan or dictate. Let go and see what spirit has in store. What takes hold in your life will be better than you can imagine. Nice. Okay, so those are great wisdom cards from the Wisdom of the Oracle. Let's go to the Spirit Animal Oracle deck and see what we get as an animal to help us along the week. And interesting. I just saw in the chart we have a huge, what is that running from? The 6th? From the North Node, the South Node and Venus are in a conjunction today, which we didn't talk about, but essentially, we're looking to the past again and looking maybe at past relationships to see ourselves more clearly. And it is in an opposition with the North Node. Sandpiper upside down. Sandpiper spirit. Remember, it says be playful. And that is a card number 51, which is a 6. So Sandpiper says be playful, but it was in protection mode. I'll look at that in a second. And what was I talking about? Oh, well, let's read Sandpiper while I think about what I was thinking about. Oh, the T-square. Let me show it to you right here. So if you look at this, you see the opposition between the North Node and the South Node, our anchor of destiny, right? This is our destiny line. And Venus happens to be also at this end down here. And the point is pointing at the white moon Selena. And the white moon Selena, which if you're part of the membership group, we've talked about this in the webinars, but the white moon Selena represents your highest and best light. Your light. Where does your light shine? We each have Selena someplace in our natal charts, which shows where we are best suited to shine the light. And Selena happens to be in Libra right now in this particular transit chart at 6 degrees of Libra, where we are shining our light into relationships and into Venus territory, right? Which is our values and how we love one another and how we bond together and what brings us together versus what tears us apart. So interesting, right? That the light, we're being kind of tested now to bring in more and more of the light. Okay, Sandpiper, card number 51. At least that wasn't skunk. Okay, 51. And remember, it's the Be Playful card, and its protection message is when your heart is heavy and life seems to weigh you down, Sandpiper Spirit's message is to lighten your burden by finding joy and humor in the everyday. Become like a playful child filled with curiosity and wonder, and soon you will find you feel your own spirit lift, your own spirit lift. A few minutes or hours of fun-filled delight is exactly what you need now. Enjoy the ridiculousness of life and be willing to jump in. Let your inner goof out to express itself with abandon. I love that. Let your inner goof out. That will help offset some of the more serious, crazy energy that's going on. Gotta love those cards. Okay. That is it for me today, guys. My mind is gone already. I'm going to focus it in a different direction. Nothing big going on this week. Remember, you still have time to purchase your seat for the Astrology of 2020 webinar. The closer we get to the day, that is wrong calendar. It's bugging me. The 11th is a week from this Wednesday. And we're going to go through all of the delightful information for 2020. And you'll want to be there to find out how to get through this upcoming year, what to focus on, what not to focus on, etc. So that's also pinned to the Living Astrology Facebook page where you can find it easily and find the link to purchase it. And then I send you the link to actually register. So you get all of the emails and reminders, etc. All right, guys, that's it for me this morning. I hope you all have a great day. I will see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. here at Living Astrology. Bye for now.